You know, it seems like every day we're hearing about these new data breaches happening. 10 million users affected here, 30 million users over there, and everybody gets free credit monitoring. Well, doesn't that just give you warm fuzzies? Well, none of us want to be responsible for letting something like that happen. And one of the many ways that we can help prevent that is to do vulnerability scans and patch our vulnerabilities or fix them in any way that they need to be fixed. Now, to do this, we can use the Nmap tool, which is a great tool used for scanning networks, looking for hosts and the open ports they have and what services they're running. Now, let's get started by installing Nmap. Now, I'm on a Kali Linux host that uses the apt package manager. So to install Kali, I'll use apt-get install Nmap. Now, I've already done that, so I'm not going to install it again. I just wanted to show you how if you're on a Linux system using the apt package manager, such as Ubuntu or Kali or Debian, for example. Now, if you're on a Red Hat distribution, you can use yum install Nmap. So where that's like CentOS, Fedora, or Red Hat. Now, maybe you're not running Linux at all. Maybe you are on a Windows host. Well, in that case, just jump on over to nmap.org in their downloads page, and you'll see here the Windows binaries. Here's your setup.exe. And if you're on a Mac, you can scroll on down the page, and there are Mac binaries as well. And like here is the DMG package. So now that we've got Nmap installed, in order to do a vulnerability scan, we're going to download a script. And this is using the Nmap scripting engine that gives Nmap some additional capabilities. Now, these scripts are used to do all kinds of things, but what we're going to use them to do is vulnerability scanning. So I'm going to jump over here to GitHub. Here's the URL here, and I'm on the nmap-vulners page. I'm going to come down here and click on clone or download. I'm going to copy that URL. And before I paste it, I'm going to switch directories. I'm going to jump into the user share Nmap scripts directory. And that's because this is where all the Nmap scripts reside. And since I'm downloading a new one, I want to put it where all the others are so that when I run my Nmap command, the Nmap service will know exactly where to find it. So let's go ahead and switch over there. I'm going to type git clone and then paste that URL in. There we go. And it'll take just a couple seconds to download. Completed. Excellent. Now we have our script. So let's go ahead and clear the screen here. Now next up, it is time to actually run our vulnerability scan using Nmap. Now the command is just like this, nmap --script, that says nmap, hey, I want to use a script. And that's going to then look in that scripts directory where we put that one that we just downloaded. Now the name of the script is nmap-vulners. Then we need to use lowercase s capital V. And that's because we're going to scan a host for a service version. That's the SV. Then I need to put in whatever I'm going to scan. It could be a server or a workstation, could be several workstations, or it could be a whole network, maybe at your home or at your business, somewhere that you're allowed to do this type of scanning. So I'm going to put in the host I'm scanning, which is 56.105. And at this point, I could run Nmap and it will do the scan. And it will output all this information into my terminal here. And that's kind of a little clunky to work around in, you know. It's kind of nice to have that output in something like a text file that I can search through. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use this character here to output to my root desktop and then give it a name like 105-vulners.txt. And at this point, I could hit the enter button. It would run the scan and output that information to a text file. And I did that earlier so that we didn't have to wait for it to finish because it'll take 2 or 3 minutes. Now over here is my output. I'm going to open this up. There we go. And let's go ahead and scroll to the top and take a look at what we have found. Now this is the target or host I was scanning, 56.105. And again, this can be any of your servers or workstations, things that you want to scan, or it could be network devices, but things you want to scan to see if they have vulnerabilities or may have them. So over here we start with port and then state. Now this is our port number that the service runs on. The state means open, meaning that port is open. This is the actual service like FTP or SSH. And then we have a version. Now it's very important that we get this version. That's why we used in that Nmap command the -SV, because we want the service version. That's because there's all different kinds of versions of the same service. And one version might have a vulnerability, but then they fixed it and released a new version. That's why we need to know exactly which version we're dealing with. So let's look down at the next one, port 22, which is SSH, and is running OpenSSH version 4.7p1. And here you can see it found 5 possible vulnerabilities on that version. Now, let's take a look at what it's actually printed out here. First, we have a CVE number, and this is a number used to track the vulnerability throughout its life cycle. It's an identifier. Then we have a number like 7.5 here, and this is a severity scale, ranking from 10 being the absolute most risky and dangerous to 1, which is, very little risk and may not need to be addressed. Then we have a URL here that we could go to and get some additional information specifically about this vulnerability. Now, personally, I like to start with a 7.0 or greater when I'm going through a vulnerability scan report and work to fix those and patch them, because those are going to be the most risky. And then I kind of work my way down. And at some point, you'll start to see that the vulnerabilities aren't really vulnerabilities. They're just kind of maybe part of the application or system, and you may not need to actually patch those. But definitely start with your 7.0 and above and get those fixed as soon as you can. So now as we scroll down and look at some others, we see there's some here for DNS. This is on a bind server, which is a Linux DNS services. And we scroll down and there's more. Here's some for Apache 2.2.8. Again, we're identifying that version number. It's super important. Now, when you see that there's possible vulnerabilities, what are you going to do? How do you know how to fix it? Well, what you need to do is go to that vendor's website, like here, Apache. This is a 10.0. That's pretty bad. That's as bad as I get. Very dangerous to have that vulnerability. Well, I would want to go to Apache's website and look for patches specifically for this vulnerability, or make sure that my Apache web server is up to date and running on the latest version. Now, as we continue to scroll down here, let's see, what do we have? Oh, here's a good one. Pro FTPD. It's running version 1.3.1. It's got some vulnerabilities. There's a 7.1 and a 9, so we definitely need to look into this. And that's running version 1.3.1 again. Now, if I was to jump over here to a web browser and go ahead and go over here and go to the proftpd.org website, I see that 1.3.6 is available. Well, I bet 1.3.6 probably fixes these vulnerabilities. So it would be in my best interest to go ahead and upgrade my ProFTPD server to the latest version to try to address those. Well, now you're ready to find vulnerabilities using Nmap. If you enjoyed this video and want more tutorials like this in the future, please subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified when the next one's available. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.